Welcome back, and welcome to the year 2026. And we're doing a little bit sort of a podcast format this time around. And one of my goals is to be able to post a little bit more often. And in order to do that, I think I'm going to have to take some of these more broader topics that I like to talk about and try and condense them into one maybe medium sized episode. But at least that will make it a lot easier for me to get out and hopefully for you to be able to see. So in today's episode, we are going to take a look at the Utah Mammoths, where they're sitting right now with about half of the NHL season over, where they currently stand, what I've liked and disliked so far about this season, and what they're going to need to be able to do in order to actually make it into the playoffs. And then we're going to end with a little bit of fun. Last year I did an NFL tier system on who I want to win the Super Bowl. And this year we're going to redo that again now that the playoffs are set. So let's first jump into the Mammoth. So right now the Mammoth are sitting as the fourth wild card spot, 20-20-3. They had an impressive win yesterday at the time of this recording over the New York Rangers in overtime. And even though they are the fourth wild card spot, they're actually sitting as the fifth wild card spot in terms of points percentage. Nashville has just a minor leg up, playing less games and only having one less point than them. But let's talk a little bit on how we got here first. So the Mammoth, if you didn't know, they started out really strong. After starting out 1-2, they then went on that very notable for Mammoth fans 7-game winning streak, beating teams like Boston, Colorado, St. Louis at the time we thought was pretty good, Minnesota, who we thought was pretty bad, but has actually ended up being pretty good, and Winnipeg. And those last three all on the road. Really, at one point in time, the Mammoth was sitting as the top team in the NHL with the most points. And it was looking pretty good. They had a solid chance to make the playoffs and really felt like they had taken that next step. And you know, I've said this in many videos that I've done so far, or at least that one that I did trying to project this season, that they really did need to start off strong because they were about to hit a really tough part in their schedule overall. And they outperformed even my expectations at the beginning. But then the losing streak started to happen, which some of it if you looked at the playoff or the game odds, you know, there was that chance for that to happen. But really, the teams that they lost to in devastating fashion, I would say it really started in that middle of November when they lost at home to the Islanders in overtime. The very next game they lost at Anaheim, and they gave away that game. It was all Mammoth at that point in time, and then they let that one get away from them. They had to claw back to tie San Jose and send that one into overtime, and they ended up losing that one. So 3 straight overtime losses, and then followed by a 1-4 really gut punch loss to Vegas, really set this team back and started the downtrend, and had a lot of people calling for Andre Turney to be fired and a lot of sweeping changes people needed to be trading and that sort of thing. And really, they lost all of that momentum that they had going in with all those awesome wins was immediately gone. And now they were back to just barely treading that wild card line. It doesn't help that the 3 best teams in the league right now all come from the Central Division and have taken all of the Central playoff spots. And now they're fighting for those wild card spots. And I don't know if they're ever going to be able to catch, you know, the likes of Minnesota or Dallas. And so they're going to be fighting for that playoff spot. Since I would say they had a terrible November. December, they've been playing about 500 hockey. They would have games where you don't expect them to win, and then followed by games where you do expect them to win, and they lose, and then they come back and win games like last night where you don't really expect them to win, or just, you know, very, very inconsistent is what you would say. This last road trip is just a very prime example of that, where you have a blowout win over the Islanders, and then you get blown out by the Devils. And I know that the Devils are a pretty decent team, but it's that lack of consistency that I think is really driving the fans mad right now at this point. But things that I've liked so far about the Mammoth hockey season, I really like some of what I'm seeing from Dylan Gunther. He's the one that I'm representing back here. He's my favorite player. Love watching him. I think he performs well. I think in a lot of games and over the course of the season, the penalty kill has been very good. They've been pretty decent at home too, and so when they're there at home, they're playing pretty well. And some of the other young talent that you see, I've liked what I've seen from Boot so far, or Cheeks, who we'd call him. Some of that young talent is still looking good and prime. That this team is in good shape to, do well over the long term. Some things that I really have been disappointed in is overall. First of all, I think the goaltending has been super inconsistent. They're sitting, I think, at around a 89% save rate, which is not good enough to be in that higher caliber of teams. There've been some games where the goaltending has really let them down. The power play, I mean, for a moment there during that losing streak and even after that losing streak, it was just awful. I think one time they were at a stretch of like 1 for 28. So the power play, I would say, is still sort of icky. They can't really score. And I hate to call like specific players out, but Sergachev I've been pretty disappointed in. I feel like I don't know if I just feel like the effort hasn't been there a lot of times, and he's given up plays. And granted, he has some great plays too, especially on the offensive end, but for someone who I think has stepped up and tried to be a leader, especially last year during the first season, haven't really seen it. It's a shame that Logan Cooley got hurt. After his contract, he struggled there for a little bit, but then he was starting to catch his groove again, and hopefully they'll be able to get him back towards the end of the season, but that was a pretty hefty loss. So, like I mentioned before, right now they are sitting just outside the wild card spot, which I kind of anticipated here at the beginning, and so now you're looking at the Money Puck playoff odds right now. They have jumped up to let's see right now. If I look at it, they're sitting at a 46.6% as of today to make the playoffs. Kind of a coin flip that's dropped a little bit since the playoffs have started. They were as high as like 75% at one point in time, but they were as low as like 32%. So they've started to rebound a little bit, and hopefully they can keep some of this momentum that they've built up. But as soon as I say that, they go ahead and lose to teams that they should lose to. I'm going to go ahead and pull up, or at least have a graphic here as I'm talking when I do the editing for this video. I may have mentioned this or shown this during my preview of the season, but it's the overall projection of sort of their points projection over the course of the year and where they were going to get their points and where they might struggle a little bit. And so if we check in right now at where they are at the season, they're sitting 1 point back on my points projection on them being able to get to that 94 point mark, which I think is what they need to get to at least in order to get into the playoffs. So if I went and I took the Money Puck projections on all of these different games, I've actually adjusted them in 10 games segments. Every 10 games, I readjust them based on what the rankings have changed them to. But right now, currently as it sits, they should be at 44 points and they're only 1 point down. So I am one of those middle fans where I get frustrated when they lose games they shouldn't, but I'm not sitting here thinking that it's doomsday and that everything, is done for this season. There is still time to turn this around. What is scary though is they really do have to turn it on in this second half. They have less than the season and they have 51 points to go out and get. And that starts here with this upcoming homestand. They've got a 7 game homestand. They really need to capitalize on that. Uh, there's going to be some tough games. The first one tomorrow against Ottawa, a tough team coming into town. But then they have St. Louis, who they should be able to beat. Columbus was banking on playoff caliber. Right now, they're sitting though at dead last. The Eastern Conference is so funny. They're like dead last is still only like 3 games back from the wild card, but so they should be able to take care of Columbus. Toronto, you never know. They're struggling this year, but they're going to be a team that they should be able to beat, but you never know. Then they got Dallas, which will be a really tough game for them. Seattle, Philadelphia. So they got some very winnable games, but knowing this team, they can always stumble at any point in time. But the way my projections have this is in order for them to stay on track with this ranking, I'm trying to like use my hands as the right thing. They need to win the next like 8 games. They need to come out of they by the end of this month, they need to capture like 16 more points. So that's 8 games. Again, they should win the next 7. Then they will go on a tough road trip where they play Tampa Bay, Florida, and Carolina. So there I have to project that they're not going to win those games. And who knows, they might drop a couple of these home games and maybe hopefully win one while they're out on that road trip. But you get my point of what I'm saying is they've really got to go on a tear in January in order to really vault themselves into the playoff picture. Once they get through January, February, and I would say the early to middle part of March, they can get away with playing some 500 hockey again. And then towards the end of March, they really need to finish strong against some of the weaker teams in the NHL. So I'll post sort of here what the projections look like, but that's the scary part of the season. In order to get to that 94 point total, they need to finish. I did leave it down here in my notes here. What is that? They need to finish like 23-13 or 25-13-1. So a very tall order. It is doable, I think, as their schedule lightens up a little bit, but we'll just have to see. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think that the Mammoth can do it? What have you liked from this team so far? What would you like to see happen? Do you feel like there's any sort of trades or anything that General Manager Bill Armstrong can do to turn this team into a playoff contender? All right, thank you for making your way over to the next part of our video where we're going to be doing a tier list on who I am rooting for in this year's NFL playoffs. And first of all, let's go over the different tiers and then I'll slot them in where my rooting interests lie. The first one is pretty obvious since the 49ers are my favorite team. They deserve their own tier and they will be who I am solely diehard rooting for and hope that they can actually take home a 6th Lombardi trophy in their home stadium. That will be a lot harder though after their last week's loss to the Seahawks, making it a little bit more difficult. So in the likely scenario that they aren't able to take it home, there are a couple of other teams who I will be actively rooting for, and that's where my second tier list goes. If not the 49ers, then who? The next tier are teams that I'm okay if they win. I'm not actively rooting for them, and if they win, I'm okay with it. The next tier is a tier that I don't really want these teams to win. I'm not even saying that my reasons are justified. I'll explain the reasons why later on, but just teams that I don't really care to see win. And then the last tier are the teams I'm actively rooting for them not to win at all and hope that they have an early playoff exit. So we already went ahead and we slotted the 49ers in that top tier just to make it easier. But let's go through these list of teams now. First up, we have the Bears. I'm going to put them in the not actively rooting for, but okay if they win tier. It's kind of a mouthful. We'll hopefully don't have to repeat that tier too many times. But for the Bears, I don't really have anything against them. It's been forever, not even in my lifetime that they've won a Super Bowl. Would be the 40-year anniversary since the famous 85 Bears. So that would be kind of cool. So I'm okay if they win it. Next up, we have the Bills. And I'll be honest, the Bills are who I am most actively rooting for outside of the 49ers. I just really like the fan base. I like Josh Allen. I feel like the fan base has gone through enough torture already. So it would be really cool if they could finally get over the hump, both for the Bills and the Niners. They no longer have Patrick Mahomes to go through. So hopefully this opens up a window for one of those two teams to finally get over the hump. Next up, we have the Broncos. I'm going to put them in this tier ahead of the Bears. Uh, Main reason is I have, some close family and friends that have rooting interest, and they're a pretty close geographical team to me. So I've sort of always grown up following them and rooting for them off and on. So, I'd be okay if they win it. Next up, I have the Chargers. I would probably put them ahead of the Bears. Okay with they win it too. They haven't won a Super Bowl yet, so I think it would be cool if they could finally get over the hump. I would feel bad for San Diego fans if they were to win a Super Bowl now that they're in LA. But I do like Jim Harbaugh, and I do want to see them be successful ahead of some of these other teams. Next up, we have the Eagles. This is an easy choice. I had them last year in this bottom tier. I just really dislike this fan base. I dislike the team. I dislike almost anything about the Eagles right now, which is kind of weird. I didn't used to have such animosity towards them, in my earlier years. But it's not even because they won it last year. I just don't really want to see them win. I'm just not a huge fan of this team. As far as Jacksonville goes, I'm going to put them right behind the Bills, which is sort of sad because the Bills and the Jaguars play each other this week. So one of the teams I'm actively rooting for is going to get eliminated this week. I could go for, I do want to see the Bills more than the Jaguars, but if the Jaguars were to come out of the AFC, I'd be pretty happy about that too. As far as the Packers go, I'm going to say anyone but them, really because they're just a big NFC rival to the and have always been to the Niners. So never really been a huge fan of them. And quite honestly, I think Jordan Love's a little bit overrated. And I think that he gets too much slurping. And I should like him, even though he, went to a Utah school. So I should have more uh, kindness towards him, but I really don't. And it's not, I don't think it's even his fault. He's not an arrogant person, but just the way people slurp him up, it just sort of rubs me the wrong way. So I don't could really, wouldn't be too sad if they lost the first round game against the Bears. Next up, we have the Panthers. Surprisingly, I'm going to put them in, I don't really want them to win. And don't get me wrong, I love an underdog story. I love the small schools. You've seen all my YouTube videos about college football and wanting to see representation from those underdogs. But uh, this is where it stops. I am glad the Panthers are in the playoffs. I think every division winner should be in the playoffs. I think they all deserve a home team, or sorry, not home team, home game. So that way it preserves the importance of winning your division. But that's where it stops. I think I don't really want to see them win. I would like to see them beat the Rams because they're going to be lower on this tier list, but it's about there where it stops. I don't really care to see them win, mostly because, I think it should come from a team that, proved for a longer period of time that they were a really good team. As far as Patriots, I'm going to put them in the same tier as the Panthers. And it's really nothing against this new Panthers team. Like, I like the coach. I like Mike Vrabel. I like Drake May, and really like this core group of players. But I'm just sick of the brand. I'm sick of the Patriots brand. So I would just like to see something new and something fresh. I know it's been a while since they've been in the playoffs, but still they dominated for such a long period of time in my life that I'm just kind of over the Patriots right now. As far as the Rams go, they are actually ahead of the Eagles, but still, I do not want to see them in winning a Super Bowl before the Niners again. The Seahawks I would list in that same tier list. These are just big NFC West rivals, so I just don't really like them all that much. Surprisingly, I actually really like the quarterbacks for both of these teams. I think Minnesota did Sam Darnold pretty dirty and felt like he deserved to play longer there. So I do like seeing him have success, and I do like Matt Stafford as well. It's just the rest of the team on both these teams that I really can't stand. So uh, I think that rounds out my anyone but them tier ranking. As far as the Steelers go, if I didn't have like close family members that are just diehard Steelers fans, I'd probably have them ranked a little bit lower. But I do have them at the top of my not actively rooting for tier list. I would be okay with it win just because that meant that some of my family members are happy too. As far as the Texans go, I would probably have to put them, unfortunately, behind the Steelers then. I actually do like this team and would be okay if they won it. But if you're asking me to pick who I'm rooting for between the Steelers and the Texans, I would have to say the Steelers. But the Texans are right there behind it, so I won't be too shaken up if they win either. So there you have it. You can kind of see a lot of my teams outside of the 49ers are basically all AFC teams, uh, mostly because a lot of the NFC teams are just big rivals to the Niners and have had enough bitter episodes with each of these teams and fan bases to really not root against them. So there you have it.